welcome to the August 27th, 2024 regular meeting of the City of Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission.
State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve our community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates.
If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward to the lectern when recognized and clearly print your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt this meeting, please either switch it to silent mode or turn it off. At this time, I ask the Planning Commission Recording Secretary, Kathy Zarnicki, to conduct the roll call, please.
Mr. Buechner? Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Here.
Ms. Parakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Mr. Fox makes...
Motion to approve.
I support.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Faison. I think we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and next we have the approval of the minutes from the August 13th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion? Yep, Mr. Lambert, seconded by Ms. Malala Holly. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we are at public comment for items that are not on the agenda tonight. Is anyone here to speak about something that's not on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing no one, we're going to move on to our item number 5, which is a conditional rezoning. It is a public hearing. It is proposed Bacard Lofts conditional rezoning. I don't know if I pronounced that right. North side of Maple, west side of Stevenson. The address is 1441 East Maple, PIN 88-20-26-351-016, Section 26, from O Office to IB Integrated Industrial and Business District. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Carlisle.
Yes, thank you and good evening to the Planning Commission. As noted, the site is located at 1441 East Maple Road. The site is outlined in red in front of you. It's currently zoned O Office. The application before you is to conditionally rezone it to IB Integrated Industrial and Business District. The purpose of the rezoning is the applicant proposes to continue the office use on the first floor and reconvert the second floor to multifamily dwellings on the second and third floor. Multifamily use is not a permitted use in the office district. However, it is a permitted use in the IB district. That's the reason they're asking for the conditional rezoning. We do note that the area is an interesting area of Troy. It's got an eclectic mix of zoning and land use. We do note that there is IB zoning to both the north and to the west, and the surrounding mix in the area includes office, gas station, and retail type uses. With regards to the master plan, that's one of the key components that we look at with regards to rezoning. We do note that the site and the surrounding area is located in the Maple Road sub-area, which the Planning Commission undertook at the previous master plan revision. And the Maple Road district provides for a mix of land uses with a focus really on repurposing, reusing, and redevelopment of the parcels. So the strategies to advance that are to encourage high-quality commercial mixed-use development around the major mile intersections, engage surrounding residential neighborhoods through linkages, and incentivize development through zoning. We find that the repurposing and reinvestment in the existing building and not tearing it down and starting new, but rather repurposing for a second and third floor use of residential would advance many of the goals of the master plan, specifically redeveloping and repurposing a underutilized parcel, but also providing housing options that the city is encouraging as well. We do note that the applicant did voluntarily offer conditions in their August 2nd letter. The first condition was the site would be restricted to the following uses as stated in the zoning ordinance: multifamily dwellings on its upper floors only, all uses provided in the retail, entertainment, and service category, except adult use businesses, as well as all uses provided in the office category. If the Planning Commission is aware, Article 4 in the zoning ordinance has a list of uses for each district, and so we group them by categories. So the office category is many different types of office uses. So the applicant is asking for all the uses in the office category, all the uses in retail, entertainment, service, except for adult use businesses. We do note that they go on to say that the uses stated in the recreation, institutional, and industrial categories would not be permitted on this property. In review of the conditional letter, and I don't know if I was very clear in my review. I did review it again, and I had a few items that need some clarification from the applicant. First, the applicant does note that they propose, and the italicized lettering is the actual quote from the letter. Applicant proposes a mixed-use development with multifamily units on the upper 2 floors, and our comment is that a condition of a mixed use on the property, or is that just a suggestion that they're trying to achieve? The second item is no adverse impact on adjacent properties. Our comment is, what does that mean in terms of a condition? Is it just a statement? And same for the third one. Mixed-use development on a property will support the city's Maple Road Special Area Plan objectives. Again, what does this mean in terms of a condition? We do note that the letter includes a number of detailed narratives, which really aren't actual conditions. So we are asking that the letter be clarified. We do generally support the conditions offered, but the letter should be clarified and cleaned up prior to going to council consideration if the Planning Commission is inclined to move this forward. We do also note that the applicant and his attorney are here tonight, and they can clarify any of their conditions that they did offer in their letter. We also do note, again, this is a conditional rezoning, and the applicant can offer or re-offer conditions as part of the process, so they can offer those again tonight. With regards to current zoning, the site, as noted, is zoned O office, and is primarily intended to support industrial and office uses. We note that with many of our office districts that we've discussed with the Planning Commission, the existing zoning of office is very limited and generally inconsistent with the master plan, specifically for this particular area. If the proposed rezoning is approved, again, the applicant's stated purpose is to keep the existing building and repurpose it. We do note that the IB rezoning would create a nonconformity with parking between the front lot line and the building. That's currently a non-conforming condition at this point, so it's not increasing nonconformity. We also do note that there are opportunities to reduce that with additional landscaping or something of that nature. And furthermore, if the site were to be redeveloped, that nonconformity could be addressed in a future redevelopment. We also note that if the applicant were only to convert the upper 2 stories to residential and all their zoning requirements are met, that could be done through a building permit process and would not be required to come back to the Planning Commission. However, we do note that if the applicant were to make any improvements that do require site plan approval, that future site plan would come in front of the Planning Commission moving forward. There are 5 standards that the Planning Commission should consider with regards to rezoning. The most important one that we look at is the consistency with the master plan, but the additional ones include would not cause or increase any nonconformity. The site can be served by public services and facilities. The rezoning will not impact public health, safety, and welfare, and the rezoning will ensure compatibility with adjacent uses of land. Based on those standards, we do find that the required standards have been met. Reinvesting and repurposing an underperforming office use to a functioning use is consistent with the master plan. The change in use from a single-use office to a mixed use is consistent with the master plan. Rezoning to IB will create a nonconformity between the existing parking and the front lot line. However, this is an existing condition, and the nonconformity issue could be rectified if the site were to be redeveloped. And lastly, the surrounding property is surrounded by a mix of uses, including office and retail, and the proposed use of the property for mixed use would not negatively impact and is compatible with adjacent properties. Furthermore, the city has a stated goal and is pursuing additional residential opportunities, and this is one such opportunity. So with that, we are making the recommendation that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, consider public testimony, consider the standards set forth in section 1603, and make a recommendation to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Does anyone on Planning Commission have questions for Mr. Carlisle at this time? Yep. Mr. Faison?
If we approve the conditional rezoning, would there be any required site improvements? Like the landscaping, the parking lot, or any of those things?
Not at this point. It's premature until, no, not as part of the conditional rezoning. There were no required site improvements as part of the rezoning. The applicant could offer that as a condition to increase landscaping or something of that nature, but it's not a requirement of the proposed conditional rezoning.
And just one follow-up. So if we were approved the rezoning and all the work is done in the inside, then it would seem like there would be no ability or requirement to do any upgrading to the outside. Is that correct? There would be no site plan.
There would be
for us to
there would be
approve
no
at
site
any
plan.
point. Right.
It would be a building permit requirement. It'd be similar to, so if the site was already zoned IB and he wanted to convert the upper floors, it wouldn't go through planning commission. It would be a building permit review. Now, as part of the building permit review, we also review zoning as part of that. And if there's any issues we identify through the zoning review that would require site plan improvements, that would require it to come back to the planning commission, that would be caught and potentially come back. But it's not going through site plan at this point. This is simply just a
Right.
request for a conditional rezoning.
Understood. Thank you.
And just as a reminder, we're recommending
Yep.
body to the city council. Yep, Mr. Sabadat?
We talked about potential site plan improvements during our pre-application meeting, recognizing that generally speaking, the parking requirements for office are higher than residential, so there's the potential for some unused parking spaces there. We mentioned it to the applicant, and they did express a willingness to eliminate some parking and replace it with some landscaping and other amenities, but that wasn't voluntarily offered.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yep, Mr. Tagle.
Do we have information as to how many parking spaces are going to be required if this is approved, based on the proposed use in the building?
Yeah, we haven't got that far yet, no.
And if I remember reading one of the slides there, the condition is if this causes a nonconformity, is a potential problem, because this does cause a nonconformity by changing the zoning.
Yeah, it creates a nonconformity with regards to parking between the street and the building. There's a relatively simple solution that could eliminate that nonconformity, and you're probably more well aware of it than anyone else on the Planning Commission. Remember, Mr. Tagle, the Sustainable Development Review Committee can approve projects that propose parking in the front yard. So it would be a relatively quick way to eliminate that nonconformity by the applicant reducing some of the parking in the front yard and coming in with a sustainable development project, thereby getting approval from the SDRC and eliminating the non-conforming parking situation. That's a very simple solution that they could look at in the event that it gets rezoned.
Do you remember if any of that was discussed with them in the pre-application?
I think we discussed it kind of loosely, but there's a lot of balls in the air because the conversation is, how deep into the conditional rezoning do you want to get? In other words, do you want to submit fully rendered plans? Do you want to stick to more kind of general conditions in writing like they chose to do? We talked about this very briefly, but this was the direction that they went in, and it does make sense on a lot of levels because of the fact that upper floor residential is permitted by right, and they can seek conversion of the office space through building permits. It did make a lot of sense to pursue this avenue, but the applicant and his attorney are here. We can get into the weeds a little bit if you'd like.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, though, on that, so in order for us to recommend approval and us wanting to not violate the term, we have to follow the zoning ordinance, I mean, really, we would want it to, we can't ask for a condition, but it seems to me that the condition would need to be there, that they would be not creating a nonconformity by doing what you just described.
Well, it's an existing site condition. The parking is there, the building is where it is. So I don't have a lot of heartburn over the fact that it's a nonconformity. And again, there's a simple solution to eliminating this nonconformity, and that's to once rezoned, they could pursue sustainable development approval and reduce some parking and do some other site improvements like vehicle charging stations and reduce lighting and things like that. It's a fairly simple solution, and it would dovetail perfectly with some of the improvements that they talked about wanting to make anyways. So I think we can get there.
Okay. And they do have the opportunity to add it as a condition
They do.
currently, right now? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Krant.
So I take it because it's all internal renovation, there will be no site plan process, or not?
It depends what avenue the applicant chooses to go down. If they, for example, if this were rezoned and the conditions that were voluntarily offered and approved allowed for, I'm just going to make something up, adding to the south elevation and bringing that closer to the street. That would come before the Planning Commission, for example.
But since that's not going, that's,
if
it's
all
not
they're-
happened right now. I mean,
If all they're doing is renovating the upper 2 floors, that would not come to the Planning Commission because there's no site changes.
Correct, okay, just want to make sure, thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions for the planning department? Okay, we'll go ahead and invite the applicant up. If you could just sign in and state your name for the benefit of
I
it.
used to have a frequent flyer pass, but this is my renewal. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Dennis Cowan with the firm Plunket Cooney, representing Blackacre Management, who is the applicant. And with me is one of the principals of Blackacre, Dalen Hanna. And we're going to kind of tag team it. We'll keep it short and to the point, and then obviously want to entertain any of your questions before or after the public hearing. So, first of all, we're very excited about this project. We think it fits in very nicely, as Mr. Carlisle has summarized, with your Maple Road special plan area, as stated in the master plan. And as a result, it's a great opportunity for adaptive reuse of this building, because no one knows better than you all the travails in the office market right now, and I do know of at least one other project that you've approved or the city's approved for such a conversion. I think it's on Crooks, south of Big Beaver. And so it's important that we come before you to make sure we can get through step one and the rezoning so that we have the confidence in moving forward with the project. So that being said, I think we believe we meet the conditions for, or rather the standards for conditional rezoning. I've attached that to my letter. But to get to some of the substance real quickly before Dalen gives you a little bit more detail, yes, mixed use is a condition. The other two items were really more supportive with respect, especially with respect to compliance with your, or consistency with the Maple Road plan. And so as a result, we've also, you should know, we sent a draft over to the city attorney's office, and we did add a few more details, such as not to exceed or up to 38 units. There's some engineering that has to go on internally. Anytime you do adapt a building, you've got some fire code issues into multifamily and some ADA accessibility issues and things of that nature that all have to be factored in. But the plan is very simple. The intent is to keep this footprint and just have mixed use on the first floor, either retail, service, or office, and then on the top 2 floors be multifamily. And that's it in a nutshell. So we're not trying to not come before you again, but if that's how it works out, then we won't have to come back, and it'll just be a building permit issue. But if there is something that does create the necessity to come back to you, we'll be glad to do that. With respect to the nonconformity issue, that's something that came up after we, submitted, and rightfully so. And I think we will have a way to work around that, and it may well be that we do additional green space. We have 152 parking spaces currently. Even if each one of these units were one bedroom, that would require 2 spaces. So that would be 76 parking spaces for just the multifamily. However, that gives us enough, more than enough, we think, to take care of the first floor with whatever uses are there, as well as create additional green space. We know we do want to create some green space. The building is tired, it's old, it needs an exterior upgrade, which he'll talk about, and also it needs to be dressed up. Because if you're going to do a conversion, you have to make it appealing to the tenants. They just don't want to move into something that looks like an office building and they're going to live in it, unless there's some kind of historical significance to it or something of that nature. So it's great to be part of something new that's happening. And Blackacre, as Dalen will mention, has experience in these conversions. So I'm going to kick it over to him, and then, again, any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, he said it perfectly, so that's all I have to say. No. Actually, we are very excited about this project. This is not our first project. It's we've done a lot of office modernization projects in Southfield and Madison Heights, and now we're doing some office to multifamily conversions. And as Dennis was mentioning, some of them do have historic complexity to them. So currently we're redeveloping the tallest building in downtown Pontiac. It's a 16-story building, and we're converting that into lofts with some mixed in retail and office space. We do really well with the office space. We find that it's a very good complementary asset with the multifamily, especially with a lot of work from home type of residences now. Nobody wants to be cooped up in an apartment all day. No matter how nice we make them, they still want to get out of their apartment and go downstairs and maybe have an office space to use. In addition to that, we have, as you see in the floor plan, some proposed, the second page, actually the first page, we'll go in order. The first page is a rendering of the lofts, and I kind of cheated here. I threw it in here because we don't have renderings yet for our building, but it's the same idea. So you'll notice the windows are a little bit different, but this is what's going into downtown Pontiac. So keeping with the same loft feel, exposed ceilings and things of that nature, that's what the look and feel will be for these lofts. The second page is floor 1. You'll notice that about 2/3 of the building, or I'm sorry, about 1/3 of the building is missing on floor 1 to the left of the page. That's kind of an under-building parking space right now. We're intending on keeping that an open-air space as a pet-friendly amenity, as a outdoor, not sun-exposed space. So I guess e-cigarettes and dog business in that area. And then in the center, you'll notice there's a square that says open. It does say open to above, it's very small with the X in it. That's actually an opening that goes through the whole building, so it's a pretty cool feature in the atrium of the building, in the lobby. And then to the left of that is our shared office space. On the top of that office space on the north side of the building, you'll see there's this fitness center that's a tenant-only amenity, so it's not a public fitness center. And then to the right would be the salon studio spaces. So that encompasses the full retail space of the building, and there'll be marked parking just for the retail. The next page is floors 2 and 3. This is a typical layout, subject to change, of course. There's a lot of conditions on the site that we're not 100% aware of. As Dennis mentioned, there's some ADA and fire escape issues, so we'll have to figure those out. But all of that is internal. What you'll find is we have a nice mix between studios, 1-bedrooms, and I believe 3 2-bedrooms on each floor. I know we've asked for up to 38, but that was a very aggressive estimation, just given a square footage calculation, but the reality is after you fit all these in, you're talking about probably 28 units. Realistically, there's 14 on each of these floors. And then in the center corridor, you'll notice there's some storage spaces because the building doesn't have a basement or anything like that. And just for context, on the third page, this is what we call the most typical, so I didn't pull a corner or a 2-bedroom, just a typical 1-bedroom unit. We call this our inline unit, and the thin double line on the top of the page reflects the curtain wall, so that would be all the windows into the apartment. And then you'll have a kitchen, an island, a bedroom, a laundry, and a 1-bathroom. I'm trying to think. I'm sure the second I stop talking, I'll remember some really good points. But if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Yep, Mr. Krant.
Quick question. On the first floor, the layout we see in the packet has curved walls?
Yeah.
I don't see that on your first floor plan. What happened to the curved walls?
Well, very much by design, they're not there anymore. It dates the building tremendously. They're non-structural. If you go to the building, you'll see they're made out of brick, so you would think they're structural, but they're not. It's a veneer that goes up to 2 feet shy of the actual structure of the building.
Okay, so you'll be taking those corners out and putting square,
Yep, just kind of square it off.
okay,
90-degree angles are in.
got it, thanks.
Yep, Mr. Lambert.
The Sustainable Development Review Committee, have you looked at possibly approaching that? And is that something you would want to include in your conditional rezoning packet or application?
Well, since we just got the report like
Okay.
all of you did, and we saw that in there, we're going to give us some thought. That could be an option that we could have and amend our offer. But we just want to have the principals sit down with our architect and figure out, is that something we can do? Is that the logical place? The only issue, I think, is that with if there is some kind of retail or service, most of those people like to park in the front, but I don't think it'll be too difficult if they park on the side or in the back. So I think that would be something we could take a good hard look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Faison.
I think one of you mentioned resurfacing or reskinning the building. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know we're not approving that today, but I'm just curious about the concept there.
Sure, I can address that. So if you guys look at the typical floors 2 and 3, the apartment layouts, you'll notice the dotted lines on the perimeter. Those are just proposed balconies. Now, they are not part of the application before you today, but the idea being we break up the facade a little bit. It is a very 1970s, 1980s, it's all glass, which looks great for an office building, but not everybody wants to live in that kind of a structure. So to kind of break up the facade, I think would add a lot of value and make it feel better. And I think it'll actually make the whole property look a lot better. It's nicer. So that doesn't change the footprint of the building per se, but it does give an element of, a nice facade.
And I think you said it before, but it's not going to look like this. This is your Pontiac.
That's Pontiac. You know, the only thing that would be different, because we actually are just starting to receive some of our samples from this rendering, the only thing that would differ would be the windows. So for the most part, again, the look and feel, in Pontiac, our ceiling height is 10 feet 3 inches. Here we have up to 12 feet, so it might actually look nicer. But same modern exposed look is
Yeah,
what we're
and
going
I
for.
was speaking to the window, but
Yeah.
I understand. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for the applicant? I had a question. You listed that you would allow residential, retail, entertainment, service, office, and you would only prohibit recreation, institutional, and industrial categories. But there are 2 more categories that weren't addressed, and that was automotive, transportation, and miscellaneous. And so I just wondered what your thoughts were on those 2 categories.
I think we can safely say automotive transportation will be prohibited, and we can amend that in the final offer. But I did I happened to notice the miscellaneous category today.
Oh, okay.
And there are a couple of things we're probably going to need to retain. Most of them we don't need, but like accessory building, if we needed a shed for storage of, grass cutting, or that kind of thing, and salt, whatever. So that kind of thing we'll probably have to fine tune when we work with your city attorney's office.
Okay.
But thank you for pointing that out.
Yep.
Another thought?
Yes, Mr. Krent.
Fill me in on what do you mean by salon studios? What are those different from offices?
Well, it's a very modern business. I pay $12 for my haircut, so I learned this business the hard way. The salon studio business is essentially, if you think of a Regis office complex or like a shared office where you go in and you have some amenities like a conference center or conference room, copy and print station, those are available to everybody, and then you have your private office for an attorney or a broker or whatever. We have that on the left side of the building. So that is the shared office. On the right, it's a very similar concept, only it's for salons. And so you'll have somebody who will do hair or nails or whatever it may be. I know in Troy you guys have Cosmo. I don't know if there's a solo salon. It's the same concept. The common amenities, of course, being instead of a conference room, there's a laundry. Or instead of a small kitchenette, they have their own internal bathrooms, which is important. But but the two generally work well together. We have 3 properties that have both of those, and they're not conflicting, no one's complaining about the other property, other businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have questions? I mean, overall, I think it's fantastic that you guys are repurposing an existing building and making improvements to it. We definitely welcome that in Troy, and I know it takes a lot of work, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and, Mr. Tagle.
Yeah, the building, I know the building. Media Genesis used to own the building.
Yes.
It's a dark building. Are you doing anything to improve I know you've talked about the balconies, breaking up the facade. Are you doing anything else to the outside of the building?
We definitely want to do something because that curtain wall is very aged and it's got baked on tinting on the inside. What I find is it's a single pane glass building, so we're exploring from a budget standpoint whether or not just to change all the windows to it won't affect the footprint of the building, it'll just change the function of the windows. It's a very expensive change, but if we do it, it will make the building look new. And if we incorporate that with the balconies, we can then choose different tints, different colors, depending on what facade we're talking about, because all that gets factored in. But it's definitely something I want to do. I would do it if I had a magic wand. It's just a budgetary issue for us. So we do want to change that.
This has no relevance to what you're here tonight, but who's your professional you're working with? Who's the architect you're working with?
We've used a couple. I haven't committed to one architect in particular. I have a bad habit of playing architect, so these blueprints, I made these. We use John Gumma, whose office is in West Bloomfield. Gumma and Associates, that's usually our architect of record.
Okay. The last thing, I just want to ask you, because we've talked about the nonconformity that's being created by the change of zoning.
Sure.
Talk to me about that. What are you guys willing to come to the table with?
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the parking on the south side of the building comes too close to Maple. It comes into the setback. What I'm thinking just off the bat, and we have to figure out if the measurements work, is either put those parking spots on a slant so that we can eat away at the parking spaces and put more a green belt there. If not, we had to totally remove that. As Dennis was saying, we have plenty of parking. It's actually ironic. It's one of the issues we usually have in properties. This is not one of them. I wish I could have a parking agreement with this property and some others that we have. But I'm not dead set on keeping those parking spaces. Like he was saying, it's just from the retail ease of access to the property to have those spaces for the retail spaces. Those would be like salons and offices parking only. And we do want to have some electric charging spaces. That section is the easiest to wire for because there's already utility between the building and the front of and where Maple Road is. So if we have to tilt the parking spaces, I know that we're far from this, but I know the fire department may want to have us keep that as a drive area just because of full loop with the fire trucks. I know that's come up in previous projects that we've done. So that's definitely, we maybe want to keep the street, but to keep those couple parking spaces is not a deal breaker at all.
If I could, would the charging stations be something that the committee would look upon favorably if that were to happen in that location?
Well, I would say personally speaking, I'm not speaking for the group, but I would think absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be a positive thing.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to ask the question either to you guys or Julie. Can we act on this tonight, or since we've had this dialogue and they're considering other options to come in front of us to address the nonconformity that's being caused, is this something that they would have to come back with and present to us before we can make any recommendations to council?
Do you want me to field that first?
Do you want to provide a legal opinion and I'll provide a zoning opinion?
You go ahead and
I'm going to
then.
go first. See, she's doing attorney on me here. She's making me speak first so she can rebut.
You're on your own.
I'm not rebutting.
Smart.
You're on your own.
Okay. So we're talking about non-conforming parking, which the intent of a non-conformity is that it eventually go away and that it not be expanded. So every time a parking space is removed, that decreases the non-conformity and gets it closer to conformity. Now, in terms of I'm going to correct one thing you said. The issue isn't the angle. The issue isn't the proximity of parking as it relates to the right-of-way, what the ordinance says is that in the IB district, you can't park in the front yard. And the front yard is defined as that area between the building and the street. So if you look up here with my pointer, so this parking here, and this is a front yard here because that's a road, so this parking here is non-conforming. Now, in terms of the sustainable development option, the applicant wants to get rezoned because they're not going to, I don't think it's reasonable to ask them to do this before they get rezoned because they don't even know if it's going to be rezoned. But they could potentially voluntarily offer to pursue this. What it would involve would be submitting essentially a site plan drawing that would show less parking in the front yard, and they could do things that are of sustainable design. For example, you could put in some bioswales and some rain gardens to capture the stormwater. They could put in some vehicle EVA charging stations on the site. They could, any lighting they do could be LED, low intense lighting. They could put in insulated glass instead of what's there. They can do sustainable improvements that it sounds like they're already willing to do anyways, and get approval from the Sustainable Development Committee to have that parking in the front yard, become conforming, and still improve the site. So it's a potential win-win without a lot of really heavy lifting.
Before you say anything, my question was more procedural than it was, what are they offering? It's procedural because.
Okay, I'll get there. We're talking about parking. We're not talking about a building. So my opinion is because the fact the building is existing, the footprint is the footprint, what they're talking about making improvements to essentially is renovation internal, that I'm comfortable with the fact that our assistant city attorney is sitting here taking notes, their attorney's paying attention, I'm listening, this is eventually going to go before city council. I'm comfortable with moving forward because of the fact that we're going to have a voluntarily offered conditions that are going to be formally adopted eventually by city council in the form of a legal agreement. I'm okay procedurally moving forward this evening, but I don't vote.
Well, let me understand. They
Yeah.
haven't offered anything to talk about the nonconformity. We've talked about it.
Right.
And they said, oh, yeah, we'd consider that. But for me, to recommend to city council, I need a little bit more than we'll think about it.
Well, if you're more comfortable with postponing action this evening and waiting for revised conditions that are voluntarily offered, that you're comfortable with, by all means.
Now, I think I'd like to hear it from Julie, because is that the right process to follow?
Well, this is what I would say, and I'm not going to disagree with Brent. So the conditions that were offered by the applicant were pretty generic, right? So the conditional rezoning agreement that Mr. Cowan gave to me that I have reviewed, we can always add to that based on what this conversation is. But just like Mr. Savanant said, if you're not comfortable with them actually following through with what they say that they're going to put in the conditional rezoning agreement without you having eyes on it, that's your decision, this board's decision.
I look at my role as a planning commissioner. If I'm going to sit here and say, I approve what they've offered, but what they've offered is either soft or inconclusive, how can I stand up in front of city council and say, well, why did you forward this to us if you didn't really know what you were forwarding?
And that's,
thank you.
that's a
Yep.
valid point.
And this item we haven't finished deliberating on this item, so there's still the opportunity for the planning commission to say, theoretically, recommend approval of this condition with the following design considerations. See, design considerations.
We can't.
Hold on, see, I got an attorney asking me to speak first, and this guy trying to shut me up. We're not finished deliberating this, but in the course of this deliberation, if there's still members that aren't comfortable where we are, and we don't think we can get there with a resolution, then by all means postpone.
Right, and I think the issue is, and maybe this is what you're going to say, Ben, we need to see these conditions that are being offered in writing, right? So that's
Absolutely writing.
I think that's what you're stuck
Absolutely.
on.
But I want to say to you, I like the project. I think it's a good project. There's this hiccup, if you will, or this thing that, as a planning commissioner, I need a little bit more assurance than what I'm hearing thus far or what I've seen thus far. That's all.
Of course.
Okay, so they're still deliberating, but I just want some clarification, and then I know you have a question as well. But, so my understanding how these things work for conditional rezoning is they have to offer the condition. We cannot ask them to offer a condition, but they are going to listen to our discussion and what is, causing the problem. And I imagine if they're listening and they want this to move forward quickly, they could offer tonight and say, you know what, we are going to promise to make sure it's not conforming, and that'll be a condition. If that were to happen, and I were to approve that, it would be required that they would, whatever they said tonight would be drafted into the legal document. I don't need to, if that's true, then my response is I wouldn't need to see it myself in writing as long as you would see it in writing.
Right, it's all of your collective or individual comfort level with either relying on Mr. Cowan and I to put everything in the conditional zoning agreement that we're talking about, or if you want to have eyes on whatever it is Mr. Cowan comes up with and offers in writing. It's whatever you're comfortable
collectively, right. And I understand that, thank you. I think for me, what it is, I agree with Mr. Tagle in that it's not as if every time they remove a parking spot, it becomes more conforming. It's currently conforming under its current zoning. So by rezoning, it's non-conforming completely. So that is a violation in my mind of the rezoning, the conditional rezoning. So that is problematic to me as well, as much as I love this project. Yes, Mr. Fox?
My understanding from the packet was that it's currently non-conforming. Is that incorrect? Is it currently conforming under the office zoning?
No, I think what it was intended by that statement was the parking's already there. So he's creating a non-conformity by converting it from O to office.
So now the parking is
right now
conforming.
the parking's legal. So he's creating a non-conformity,
Okay.
but the parking exists now. So simply we're just changing the zoning designation.
Okay.
Ms. Malala Holly. Sorry.
I agree with Mr. Tagle's point of view, but I would like to see the applicant state verbally so that I will be okay with putting down my vote on this because I do like the project. In all honesty, I do like the project. Anything about adaptive use and reuse, yes, I'm in for it. But I would like to see some kind of a statement from you so we feel comfortable tonight to say, yes, this kind of leans towards where we want this project to go. And although we cannot give any conditions to you, but we would like to accept something that you have heard tonight that you are willing to maybe put into this project. The other thing too I wanted to ask you, and I was just thinking about parking lights. Because it was an office building, or it is an office building currently, those tall poles that exist for security purposes for the parking spaces, are there any there at this point in time? And if yes, what do you intend to do with that now that you'll have some residential areas on the top floors?
You mean the poles on the western side that are holding up the building? No.
Lights. No, the light poles.
Oh, the light poles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could address light poles.
I apologize. The light
We're
poles.
very cognizant of light pollution, and in a project like this, they're all high-pressure sodium lights. They're very old. Most of them don't work. Those poles will be taken out. We'll be bringing something, either what they're called wall packs that go on the building and just kind of, it's called a light photometric. Essentially, it's a footprint of where the light hits. We try to narrow that down to just the parking spaces so we don't have any cross pollution into the next property, and we're not putting light pollution out. And we're careful about the color temperature of the light. It just depends on the materials that we ultimately end up using on the property, whether we go with a warm yellow or a bright white color. But we're very aware of that, and we will do a full photometric drawing as part of our submittals. That's been a requirement from almost every project we do at this point.
And just so I understand, Mr. Savana, is that something that would be part of if it doesn't come as a site plan review, it would be part of the building permit process?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have one question for Mr. Savana.
Yes, of course.
I believe when you were using the red controller there, point out that, was it one area or two areas that are, we thought the front yard was just Maple Road.
No, because it's got two roads, This is a front yard, and this is a front yard.
I want to clarify, are you talking about between the because I think the way you said it, you said between the building and the street. Would those parking spaces between the building and the gas station to the east of it, those parking spaces between just the building and the gas station?
These are not. These
So
are
that doesn't-
conforming.
We're not, they are non-conforming?
They're conforming.
Oh, they are conforming. So we're only talking about that one wing, if you will, on the top right. And we're
Here
talking about on Maple Road.
and here.
Okay.
I mean,
And the nonconformity is not caused by construction. It would be caused by the act of rezoning.
sure.
And the options would be, if we did make a statement tonight, that the options would be we'd either make a site plan change, or we would go before the board, your committee, and present an alternative, and then you get some kind of waiver of
Just yeah, you
some of the spaces or whatever. Okay, all right, if that's the understanding. Okay. If you could give us a couple minutes while you conduct the public hearing.
Yeah, that would be great. Sure, of course. That's a great idea.
We'll just figure out the math. Okay, thank you.
All right, we are going to open this up for a public hearing. So if anyone is here to speak on this item, please come up to the lectern, sign your name, introduce yourself. Seeing no one, I think that closes the public hearing.
We have 2 minutes.
We're going to give them a few minutes. Is there any other, we can still discuss. Mr. Lambert?
Let me ask another legal question. I understand that when we have a conditional rezoning, the applicant is responsible for making what they're agreeing to, but when we're talking about a nonconformity, couldn't we state as part of a resolution, we expect the applicant to reduce nonconformity because that's not part of the conditional rezoning? That's because the zoning requires that you reduce or eliminate nonconformity.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay, let me restate it. Let me restate it.
I mean, I understand the issue, but I'm not quite sure what your question is.
The question would be, since offering conditional rezoning is the applicant's responsibility, but we have a responsibility and city council has a responsibility to make sure the zoning ordinance is followed, can't we include as part of the resolution that we would require the applicant to reduce the nonconformity as part of the process?
I don't think that we can put that condition on there, because especially in this instance, the parking already exists. I think that's what we're trying to work through. Hopefully we can come up with something that eliminates or significantly reduces that nonconformity.
Thank you.
Would a recess be appropriate?
Yes, Mr. Faison.
So I was just a question on the Sustainable Design Committee review. Like, how potentially would that process go? Like, if we were to approve this today, would then they go before that committee and get that approval before it went to council?
Well, depending obviously how the conditional rezoning agreement read, the applicant could, I'm thinking that the applicants may want to voluntarily offer, I'm not suggesting it, I'm just thinking out loud, reduction of the nonconformity or elimination of the nonconformity. One way to eliminate is the Sustainable Development Review Committee. What that involves is submitting basically a site plan sheet to the Sustainable Development Review Committee. That committee is comprised of 2 members of the Planning Commission. Right now it's Mr. Hudson and Mr. Tagle, the zoning administrator, me, the city engineer, and the city building official. It's a five-person board. The meetings are generally held during the day at an agreed-upon time where the applicant and everyone can make the meeting. There are standards that I'm happy to email everybody tomorrow. Just, JR, remind me to email everybody the standards. And depending on the type of project, there's a checklist of the requirements. And for IB parking, off the top of my head, they would be required to put in some native landscaping. They'd be required to put in some type of a small bioswale / rain garden system. And then there's a menu of options. They could put in reduced lighting with low impact lighting. They could put in vehicular charging stations. They could put in pervious pavement. There's all kinds of different things they can do off this menu, and if it satisfies the Sustainable Development Review Committee, they can get approved, it's administrative, and then once they get approval for that from the SDRC, they comply.
It eliminates the.
Eliminates the nonconformity.
Got it. All right.
So it's
So-
relatively simple.
So in other words, if they were, and I'm not putting, I'm just talking, if they were to say, a condition is that we are going to conform with the parking by not creating a nonconformity, and that's the condition, and we recommend it to city council, and then city council approves it, or I don't know at what stage, but then they go to this, the Sustainable Development Review Committee, and they can satisfy that through these other ways. So they don't have to go and turn the whole thing into landscaping. They could do these other things. But as long as tonight they were to say that their condition is that we don't know how we're going to do it, but at this point we're saying as a condition we are going to not have a nonconformity. Or we're going to go through this process. That could be a condition that we could move forward on.
I can think of 3 ways that they could conform. One is to eliminate all parking, just convert it to something else.
Yep.
2 is to seek a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying that's an option.
Okay.
And 3 is Sustainable Development Review Committee.
Okay.
The path of least resistance is to comply is Sustainable Development Review Committee, because they wouldn't necessarily have to eliminate all the parking.
Right.
There's just some of the parking through some of these means I mentioned before.
Okay, Mr. Tagle.
What is the front yard setback on Maple and on Stevenson?
30 feet. Required 30 feet.
Yeah, required.
But the definition of front yard is between the building and the street. The front yard is between the building and the street.
So the ordinance does not say the front yard setback.
It doesn't say required front yard, it says front yard.
So just to educate me, how far does that go on the Stevenson side? How far back does that go? Where does the front, I mean, is it all the way from the east side of the building to Stevenson?
I mean, what's reasonable? I've never been asked this before. So that's a side. That's a side. That's a rear. Maybe it's only here on this side of the drive. I'd have to do a deep dive. You're putting me on the spot here. I get it. It's all good.
I apologize.
But no, it's all good. It may just be these spaces here because that front. Yeah, it might be these ones. I'd have to really dial in. I didn't realize we were going to be focusing on the non-conforming parking this evening.
Part of this is, look, I've already said I like the project. I don't want to make this so onerous that it's a deal killer. But on the other hand, I want to understand what does the ordinance require, and the fact that they're causing the non-conformity because of the zoning change.
And I'm not downplaying nonconformities. Like I said earlier, nonconformities they're generally not desirable. We don't want them to be expanded, and we want them to eventually go away. We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of nonconformities throughout the city, probably thousands. We have nonconforming uses, we have nonconforming buildings, we have nonconforming sites. We're talking about parking over time. Some of these spaces may be eliminated for additional landscaping or whatever. So over time, there's only going to be less and less parking. But I think what I'm hearing from the Planning Commission is it may be the applicant may want to consider either reduction of the nonconformity or even elimination of the nonconformity is what I'm hearing.
And I'm thinking a little bit down the road, because depending on how this is resolved, that sets a precedent. So the next time a petitioner comes in with a situation similar or there's been precedent set. So I just want to make sure, me personally, that personally feel I'm on solid ground to whatever recommendation and how it goes to council.
Mr. Fox?
So a question related to something other than the parking lot nonconformity. So in a back and forth with Ms. Parakis, the applicant discussed there were two other uses that they had not mentioned, two other potential uses of IB district, including automotive and miscellaneous. I guess I just wanted to ask staff, so do they need to explicitly say as a term of the condition, we will not have automotive? Or does the fact that they're saying we are going to do multifamily, like, does that satisfy that they then would not be able to do automotive?
No, go ahead.
Their current letter that we reviewed had where is it?
Yeah.
These specific conditions.
Site restricted
multifamily,
to. Okay.
and live work, all use provided in the retail, all use in the office, not allow recreation, institutional, industrial. That's what we reviewed it under. I've heard in discussions that the applicant agreed that they would not do automotive,
Yeah.
but unless that is put in a letter that is reviewed by the city attorney, that's not a stated condition of them at this point.
Well, so does restricted to not mean that only those three things are the only thing that could happen? Meaning automotive is effectively banned by the phrasing restricted to. That might be a legal question. I didn't. Basically, as a part of a motion, I'm wondering if I should, because the applicant did offer that they would ban automotive, while we're also talking about the applicant offering, banning, or removing or eliminating the nonconformity, also putting in, language will be added to the agreement pursuant to the exclusion of automotive per approval by the city attorney, or something to that extent. Is it worth having that extra, this is banned when restricted to, in theory?
I think there should be clarification from the applicant about what they intend.
Okay.
And I think that should be a discussion. And if the applicant is willing to offer that they would not do automotive uses, I suggest that that be a condition that gets put in the conditional rezoning agreement.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, my feeling on that is that there's a finite number of options, and they listed all of them but two, so they might as well just list them all, so it's all clear. So that would be, they would have to offer that, but.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to invite the applicant back up if they're ready.
I had another thought, too.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Krant.
Okay, getting back to the parking. That extra leg on Stevenson, and I'm sure Mr. Fox knows because of his experience with the variance, building variance, or zoning variance, something, ZBA, okay, that some things that are non-conforming because of a unique existing condition could go through a variance and be approved as a variance too. So that may be another avenue, only because it is a unique thing. You've got that little leg sticking out there that normally, let's say a standard lot is some kind of rectangle or maybe even triangle, but this thing has, a little panhandle sticking out. That could be a way to approach that particular area.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, so on the critical issue of nonconformity, we would be willing to, as an offer, a condition, and you can add that to your resolution. We would resolve the nonconformity by either changing the site plan to eliminate it, or by going before your sustainable design committee with a plan, and then would live with the results of that plan and adjust accordingly. Okay? Number two, we have no problem with the no automotive or the
Transportation.
transport, I think it was. And then with the miscellaneous, I would just ask on that, there's a couple things in there I happen to notice, like accessory building or something like that. If I could have the wherewithal to work with the city attorney and just have the minor issues that we would need, that any building would get included. I mean, there's some things in there that we have no interest in and wouldn't be able to do. But we'll go through that and work with the city attorney to winnow those down and include that in the final conditional zoning agreement.
Okay, thank you for offering those. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Hudson?
We've spent 20 minutes beating a dead horse, I think, on this. The ordinance is clear, conditions must be in writing. suggest that perhaps Mr. Cowan may want to amend his offer, but put it in writing so we all understand what we're talking about before we vote. You're going to be sidetracked one way or the other with the Sustainable Domain Committee, or worrying about creating a non-conforming use, trying to cure it. I think it's just easier, put it in writing. Let us take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question for the applicant? Everyone understands what they're proposing now, right? Or what the conditions that they've offered? Okay. All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and discuss it.
Thank you.
Mr. Fox?
So, like a couple of the other planning commissioners have said, big fan of this development as a whole. Obviously, reuse, mixed use, I mean, checks a lot of boxes of things that we've discussed and wanted to look at. I think I am personally comfortable with the approach of we just verbalize in the motion the different conditions that were verbally offered by the applicant and have not yet been committed to writing, and then have them be committed to writing before they're presented to the city council to the satisfaction of the city attorney. So barring any other huge concerns, I'm willing to offer a motion because I know it's probably gonna be a tricky one. So, but please, if anybody else has anything they wanna go over, absolutely.
Go ahead, Ms. Mulally.
Considering the fact that they have now been made aware about our ideas behind how we want them to address nonconformity, and the fact that Mr. Tagle has given them quite a few ideas, and Mr. Savidan too has suggested a few routes, and that they have agreed to explore those, and I trust our city attorney to kind of make sure that those elements are entered into the conditional rezoning agreement. I am willing to not have them come back to the Planning Commission, and that between them, they will be able to get this resolved.
And I would just add that they didn't just agree to explore. They agreed that they are not going to be non-conforming.
Correct.
So if it requires that they eliminate all the parking spots in those areas, they will, but they can also seek from the Sustainable Development Review Committee alternative ways. But one way or the other, they are going to comply.
Absolutely.
And that will be written, whatever we recommend tonight will be written into the agreement.
That will be presented to council.
Ms. Dufresne, are you comfortable with this motion?
There's no motion. We haven't put the motion forward yet.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm willing to make the motion. Okay. Be it resolved that the Planning Commission hereby recommends to the City Council that the O to IB conditional rezoning request as per sections 16.04 of the City of Troy zoning ordinance located on the north side of Maple and west side of Stevenson, 1441 East Maple, within section 26 being approximately 1.2 acres in size, be granted for the following reasons. The request complies with the master plan. The rezoning would permit greater flexibility in use and development of the property. The conditions offered by the applicant reasonably protect the adjacent properties. The rezoning would be compatible with surrounding zoning and land use. The site can be adequately served with municipal water and sewer. B, it resolved that the Planning Commission recommends the following site plan design considerations. Provide conditional rezoning agreement prior. Okay, so provide conditional rezoning agreement prior to city council consideration. That includes the additional condition of banning automotive and transportation-based uses, and the intent to reduce or eliminate the nonconformity that would be created by the transition, by the rezoning.
That were offered by the applicant.
That were offered by the applicant.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Krent. Discussion? And Ms. Dufresne, did you want to?
So what Mr. Fox just said is different than what you just said. He's saying reduce or eliminate. You said comply. Those are two different things.
Oh,
May I just change to eliminate? May I amend that, Mr. Grant?
Let's just use comply, because
Okay.
there's, right now they comply, and then I think.
But I'm not sure that that's exactly what the applicant offered, is compliance. I heard them offer in writing that they'll either reduce or eliminate. I didn't hear them say that they're going to comply. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I thought I had heard reduce or eliminate as well, which I believe meets the same purpose as comply.
Madam Chairman, this discussion just illustrates why it should be in writing. We can't even agree among ourselves before a motion with the language of the condition. So I'm opposed to it. Let's do an amended agreement, but have them submit it in writing so we can all read it and see if we agree.
Okay, I mean, right now, we have a motion
Right,
on
we
the
have a
floor.
motion, right.
It's been seconded by Mr. Krent. And you said reduce or eliminate? Okay, and that is what we believe the applicant said? Okay, so that is what it is, because they offered the condition. Okay. Is there further discussion, or should we go ahead and take a vote? All right. Oh, yes, Mr. Tagle.
The term reduce, how is that, who determines if the reduction is adequate?
Well, that's not what the motion says. It doesn't say anything about adequate, it just says reduce. So
Well, okay, if they take one car away,
if you eliminate one parking space, that's reduction. That's reducing the nonconformity.
but that's really, okay, who's making that determination that you've complied with the intent of what you've offered? I mean, is it planning commission, or is it the planning department?
Yeah,
Is it city attorney?
Is
Is it the sustainable design committee if they come in front of them?
If it's formalized in the form of a legal document, then it would be a discussion that I have the city attorney. If it's dovetailed with the zoning ordinance, or it says as determined by the zoning administrator, it's a zoning administrator. But what I thought I heard, as someone who doesn't vote, I thought I heard Mr. Cowan say they were willing to eliminate the nonconformity.
That's what I wrote
heard.
down, too.
I didn't hear reduce. I heard either they're going to eliminate the parking or they're going to get a sustainable development review committee approval.
That's what I wrote down as
That's
well.
what I heard.
I wrote down, they will resolve it by eliminating the nonconformity, or they will go in front of the Sustainable Development Review Committee. Yes.
If Mr. Krent is so willing, I would be willing to take a friendly amendment that instead of saying reduce or eliminate, we just say eliminate the nonconformity.
That's fine.
Should we get clarification?
Yes, and I just want to make sure that the applicant agrees with what we heard, because, you have to offer that, and, okay. Thank you. Sorry that it got so complicated. I think we have a motion on the floor, and I think we're ready to vote.
Madam Chair, can I ask one question?
Yes,
The
of course.
condition is to eliminate the nonconformity. There's no wording as any alternative ways to eliminate. Is that correct?
Whatever satisfies the definition of eliminate.
Well, I think he went on and said that as part of that, they could go to the Sustainable Development Review Committee.
So that is included in the
That
resolution?
would still be included in the resolution.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
that wouldn't necessarily eliminate, well, it will eliminate the nonconformity because they would get permission to, okay.
Okay, thank you.
There's multiple pathways that they could reach the elimination, as we've discussed. So yeah, just the word eliminate should cover all the different avenues that they can take.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson?
No.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malalahali?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, special use approval. It is a public hearing. This is a special use and preliminary site plan review of a proposed adult foster care small group home up to 10 residents on the west side of John R., south side of Abbotsford, 5589 John R., PIN 88-20-12-152-003. Section 12, currently zoned R1C, which is one family residential zoning district. I believe Mr. Savinant's going to do that?
I'm going to do this one, yes. So I strongly encourage Mr. Carlisle to get going this evening and to get a head start on any storms that we may be hit with. Plus, we're dealing with power outages all over the region. So he's going to go, and you all know JR. He's going to be my wingman, and he's going to make the presentation for the third and final public hearing.
Great.
So we have an application, as you indicated, for Emmanuel Senior Living. The site is 0.8 of an acre or 34,848 square feet. This number is going to become important later on in my presentation. The site's presently zoned R1B, one family residential, surrounded on all sides by R1B, single family residential. And right now the Emmanuel Senior Living is located in that home that has a license from the state, from LARA, for a small group home of up to 6 residents. That's functioning today. That's a photograph of what it looks like today. So let's talk about adult foster care facilities. Everything you ever wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask. The ordinance defines adult foster care facilities. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically what it says, I'll read some of it. It's an establishment that provides foster care to adults. It includes facilities and foster care family homes for adults who are aged, mentally ill, developmentally disabled, or physically handicapped, who require supervision on an ongoing basis, but who do not require continuous nursing care. An adult foster care facility does not include nursing homes or homes for the aged or hospitals. Okay, this happens to be an adult foster care facility for residents who are aged. That's what they do today. There's different types of foster care facilities. This one happens to be a small group home, which has capacity to receive 12 or fewer adults under supervision. Again, this one happens to be licensed for up to 6. What they seek is licensed for up to 10. So because it's under 12, it qualifies as an adult, as a small group home. There are other types of facilities that are smaller than this and larger than this. This is what we're looking at today. This is a special use. There's a public hearing this evening because it's a special use. There are standards for specific standards for adult foster care facilities, and for an adult foster care small group home serving between 7 and 12, which this is, these are the standards. They are required to submit a site plan. They gave us a kind of a rudimentary survey drawing that the zoning administrator determined was appropriate to be a site plan because of the fact, I showed you what it is. It's a home that's being used for foster care facilities presently. If you want to know what it's going to look like, that's what it looks like. Go there today and look, and that's what it's going to look like. There's a standard that for every resident that's cared for, there's a minimum site area of 4,000 square feet. So 10 residents times 4,000, 40,000 square feet. Again, they've got 34,000 and change square feet. The property is required to be maintained in a manner consistent with the character of the neighborhood. The property requires 1 off-street parking space per employee and or caregiver, and they've got to have appropriate licenses with the state of Michigan. So let's go through these standards really briefly. That's the site plan I referenced. There's no changes proposed to the site. That's what you see is what you get, and it's reflected here in this survey drawing. The question then becomes, is it consistent with the character of the neighborhood? Well, what they propose to do is take an existing garage and convert that into additional bedrooms, eliminate the garage door, and replace the garage door with windows to provide light and air and emergency access for the residents. I would argue, based on that it seems consistent with the character of the neighborhood, but again, I don't vote. So access and parking. The applicant provided a statement stating that there's typically typically two vehicles in the driveway. I showed you a photograph of the house. There was 2 cars in the parking lot, in the driveway, like she indicated. The parking statement also indicates that expanding and adding 4 extra residents will require 1 additional caregiver. If there's typically 2 cars, now you've got a 3rd car in the driveway. I've got a lot of driveways in my neighborhood that have 3 cars all the time. So getting back to the character thing, to me, again, I don't vote, it seems reasonable. And the driveway can accommodate up to 6 vehicles. This is the proposed improvement. You see the garage here. They're adding bedrooms to accommodate 4 more residents. There's the license is included in the packet, license with the state of Michigan. Here's where it doesn't comply for what they want to do. They require 4,000 square feet per adult. That's 40,000 square feet. They've only got 8/10 of an acre, 34,848 square feet. Only permits 8 residents. So if they were before the Planning Commission this evening and said, we just want to have 8 residents, the Planning Commission could, if they wanted to, if they deemed it was compliant, they could approve this evening. They want those 2 extra residents. That requires a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals because it does not meet that standard. We'll get into that in a second. The master plan. This is zone single family, surrounded by single family. It's also classified as single family in the zoning ordinance. You see some of the goals of this classification, preserving the existing quality residential neighborhoods in the city. One of the standards is compatibility of the use with the neighborhood. The master plan wants safe, walkable, safe places to live and linkages with nearby services. I didn't put a slide up here. I could have. It also speaks of housing opportunities. And this is, I can tell you as someone who has parents and in-laws who are seeking these types of services, there is a shortage for quality residential care for this type of resident in the city. These are the general special use standards: compatibility with adjacent uses, compatibility with the master plan, traffic impact, impact on public services, compliance with zoning ordinance standards, impact on the overall environment, and meeting the special use approval requirements. They also are tied very closely with the specific standards for this use. Again, because the applicant seeks a variance from the ZBA, as per the ordinance, you're well aware of this requirement we have. There's a public hearing of the Planning Commission. We provide feedback to the applicant. We don't take any action. They go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for action on the variance, and they eventually come back to Planning Commission for action. So we're not taking any action this evening. I would note, this is a public hearing. The neighborhood was notified by mail. There's also posting in the paper. You can all count. I don't see anyone here this evening. And you notice the emails and the letters in the packet. There's a lot of letters of support. In fairness, some are not from residents in the neighborhood, but some are. I think she runs a pretty good business based on what I read in the application, and that completes my presentation. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sabadan. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Fox?
So I just want to clarify. So there is not going to be any official votes tonight that would preclude me from being able to participate on the ZBA with this. Okay. Just want to make sure of that.
Mr. Hudson?
Since we're not taking any actions tonight, I want to take this opportunity to give you my observations of foster care. My father, at age 96, lost my mother. He was in an assisted living facility. They could not give him adequate care. We looked into living facilities for him. As a matter of fact, my father didn't know who I was. He had no idea. We looked at one of the larger facilities here in Troy. It was a disaster. It was cold. The help was inadequate. In fact, we had left a Norelco electric shaver for my father to have the aides use. 3 days after we left it, I came in and he had not been shaved. So I said to the aide, "Why didn't you shave him?" Well, I put the shaving cream on it and put the razor and it plugged up. That was the tripping moment.
Yeah.
We went unannounced, my wife and I, out to Silverbill in, I think it's Rochester, I'm not quite sure. Foster care facility, had room for 6. We had appeared unannounced, walked in about 4 o'clock to one of the aides bringing out a sheet of chocolate chip cookies. 6 residents, room for 1 more. Well, they had 5. Room for 1 more. Each had separate bedrooms, 24-hour-a-day care, 2 or 3 people, fenced-in yards, the most loving and careful organization I have ever seen. My father died there after 2 years. He was taken care of wonderfully, and there's no question that a facility with 6, 8, 10, 12 is a lot better place for an aged person than a large facility that may hold 100. So I guess you can see where I'm going. I think this is a wonderful project.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hudson. Does anyone else have anything? Mr. Tagle?
The 4,000 square foot per occupant, is that a city ordinance requirement or a state requirement?
City.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark?
I noticed there's only 2 bathrooms in this first floor. Is there any requirement for how many bathrooms per resident? I mean, for 10, we need 2? Do we need more? What's code?
I think the applicant's going to be able to better answer that than myself. All I can tell you is that the state of Michigan regulates, and if there's an appropriate number of bathrooms, that'll be determined by the state.
Great.
All right, no other questions for the building department. We'll invite the applicant up. Okay. Yep, come on up. Yep, you could just sign in and let us know who you are. And
Okay, one thing at a time, hold on.
yeah, of course.
Hello, and good evening. Thank you
Pull
for,
the microphone down just a little. There you go.
is that better?
Much better.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come in front of you. And as you can see, I'm nervous. I never done this. I take care of seniors wonderfully. You tell me what needs to be done, and I'll be there for them. I have to say, I've been doing this for 11 years, and I'm honored to do this job. I think it's a calling for it. And yeah, so been in business for 11 years, licensed by the state of Michigan for 16 years. And I have a huge waiting list. I have people driving my street, and because I'm on John R., they just come to me. And you know what? I welcome them. I give them a tour, and I teach them what they have to be looking for when they go and place their loved one somewhere. And so yeah, even if I don't have availability, I talk to them, I take the time to educate them. It's a very hard time in every single family. I can tell you many stories of people that went through and they were in the middle or in the beginning or at the end. I take my seniors, and even if they go in hospice, I don't send them anywhere. I hold their hand until they go to be with the Lord. So they don't have to go anywhere. And I think that's a plus for the families and for the seniors, because they don't have to do another transition in this stage of life that we are all going there. Believe me, we all have that page. And anyways, we're currently serving 6 seniors with dementia or handicap. The whole facility was built for this purpose. So the state of Michigan has come to our facility at least 5 times to do an inspection, because they have to be there every 2 years. So our license gets renew every 2 years. Somebody was asking about bathrooms. We have 2 full bathrooms and 1 half bathroom, and that's more than plenty to what the state requires. We have plenty. And also in our facility, I have 2 caregivers during the day, 1 caregiver during the night. That's plenty enough. For, like, if I will just go by the rule, I'll have 1 caregiver during the day and 1 caregiver during the night. I will never do that to my seniors or my staff, because I take care of both. I have to take care of my staff and my seniors. So this will only require me to have one more caregiver at night, to have 2 during the night and 2 during the day, which again is more than what the state will require me to have. So the bathrooms, I hope I clarified that. I have 2 full bathrooms and 1 half bathroom. Again, this expansion will respond to the desperate need in our community for quality and affordable health care for seniors. Affordable, believe me, we're small and we don't charge as much as the 100+ beds, and the care that we provide is way better. No one of my seniors is asking for help for 30 minutes to go to the bathroom. The response is right there. So the small scale of this expansion will only require to add, remove the garage doors and add windows. And because we want to give the best that we can, we already have a built ramp inside of the garage. We did this so in the winter time, our seniors won't have to go into the winter weather. So the ramp, it's already built in the garage. So we are only gonna have a side door for an emergency door. This will be a 3rd emergency door, which I don't need, but I need to sleep well at night. You know what I mean? I need to just give my seniors and give my staff the best conditions that they can. So the house will look exactly the same, minus the garage doors, because there will be windows. And right now I have a window where a bigger door will be just to serve that ramp as an exit door, as an emergency exit door, if need be, hopefully not, I knock on wood. So yeah, this expansion will mean that we can serve 4 more seniors for a total of 10 seniors. And as Mr. Sardan already said, we are good for 8, but there's no reason to do this for 2 more, to be honest with you. And the parking, right now, our driveway accommodates for 6 cars. 6 seniors, 6 cars. I did just ring the bell. Anyway, 6 cars. You don't see more than 2 because it's our caregivers taking care of them. Our families, everybody is busy, and we understand if they cannot come and visit them. At the busiest time, probably 1 or 2 families at the same time, but it hardly happens. As I explained, I'm the one buying flowers, Mother's Day, Father's Day, cakes, because, people are busy, so I just need to take care of our seniors and celebrate with them life while we have it. For our architect, we are using the Detroit Architectural Group, Brandon Kritz, he's our main guy there, and George Trouble from Seabolk and Cage, who is right here with me. He will be taking care of the garage and making it into a space for our seniors. And these 2 people that I brought, again, they were the ones that remodeled the whole house. Like, literally, they removed all the walls, all the ceilings, all the floors, everything that you see right now for our seniors. These 2 guys were the ones that put it all together and brought it up to code, and that's why we can serve our seniors.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Savidan.
So we sent notices to every neighbor within 300 feet. We haven't had the public hearing yet, but there's no one here. In 2024, when change is really difficult for a lot of people, the fact that no one's here, I think, speaks to what kind of a neighbor that we have here. So you told me a story once about, without mentioning any names or addresses, about a person who was a neighbor who needed a COVID shot. Could you tell that story, please?
Oh, yes, sure. When COVID happened, it happened that I was talking to the state, I was talking to everybody to have our seniors vaccinated first. Like, I was just calling, trying to get those vaccines to us. We are small, so if I don't make noises, they won't come. So I was doing that, and one of my seniors said to me, I don't have a way to get it. Can I come and get it? And I just put him in one of my rooms, made him look like one of my seniors because he looked like 80-something, so he will just blend with the community, and nobody was checking how many seniors I had, so yeah, he blended just fine, and he brought chocolates for all of our, yeah, he brought chocolates, Godiva chocolates, they were the best, and I have to say too, believe me or not, and I'm a woman of faith, when any of our seniors have a transition and they go to be with the Lord. Believe me, I have flowers delivered to our home, flowers from strangers, people that just drive by and they just give it to us. And then I invite you guys to go to our website. There are a bunch of letters from people that we have served, their families, just thanking our caregivers, our staff for what they do. So for us to be in front of you and asking for this is to be able to help 4 more families. Let's not just talk about the seniors, but we're talking about families. We're helping the families to take care of their loved ones, to give them a good quality of life until they go to be with the Lord. And yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your service that you do for this community. And really, we should be asking you to buy up more houses and start more of these facilities around Troy, because I'm sure we all were blown away by the letters that were sent on your behalf. They were all very heartfelt, provided amazing details of the care that you give to your seniors, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, a couple of those letters were for a family that I told them, I either get this expansion and keep the cost low for all of our seniors, or you guys are gonna have to be paying a lot more. And they were like, no, please tell me what to do. I'm like, write a letter. So this is a win-win for everybody, not only for the seniors that are already in our community, but the seniors that we will be able to serve.
Yep, it's great. Okay, Mr. Lambert, we've got a few questions for you.
Yeah.
Mostly just a comment that I don't live too far away from your facility, and I usually drive past your place on John R. 3 or 4 times a week. And for I don't know how many years, I had no idea that you had a group home there. So you obviously blended well with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Yeah. We do try to keep up with the work, keep up with, the landscaping, and keep up with everything to make it look good. And like I said, another story, there is this person, she just lives 2 blocks away from us, and they pass our community. She calls me and she says, Terry, I need to go see my grandkids in Las Vegas, but my husband is bedbound. I can't leave him for a week. I need somebody to come and take care of him. But like Angels, they charge like 40 whatever an hour. She said, I have $25 an hour. Would you do it? I don't think we charged her $25, and I had 2 of my staff and I, because I had to take care of my seniors plus going to her house to take care of this senior. And I told her, book that trip, we're there with you. And they also wrote a letter there. They didn't explain all that, but one of the letters that you see there is from them. They are very grateful that we were able to help them so they could, this woman could go and see her grandkids.
That's great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Yep, Mr.
Yeah.
McCarn?
What is the second floor used for?
Good question. Thank you for asking that. My son and I live there. I have a 10-year-old son.
Very nice, thanks. So you're right there.
Yeah, I don't count myself in the staff because I'm always running around to buy donuts and buy, I spoil them. So I'm always doing something with my son and like just doing chores for the seniors. So it's my staff that is there, and I'm always a third person up there.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Tagle?
I just want to thank you for what you do, the blessings you bring on families. I just went through a similar situation with my in-laws, and I understand the difference between the large organizations that supposedly are providing care and smaller homes like yourselves. And I just want to say thank you, because it's, unfortunately, in our culture, when we get old people get pushed aside. They have no value again in the family and all of this, but they're humans, they need care, they need love, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I believe in my case, I believe that this is a calling. I couldn't do it with the passion that I do it, and all the care that I provide for them, even when they are in their last minutes. I could be the one holding their hand when they are doing the transition. I would be the one asking God for mercy when they are doing the transition. It's not fun, and I'm not in hospice, and I'm not planning going into hospice because it's a very hard, that's, if you ask me, that's the hardest part of my job, holding their hand until they make that transition and letting them go.
It's amazing. You answered most of all of my questions. I did just have one question about the garage now. What goes on in the garage now? Are there any cars parked in there?
I park in the garage, just me at night. Half of the garage is for my bikes, and my son plays football and all his equipment. But all of my son's playing equipment will go into my basement, because I have a full basement. You see this, the house? My basement, it's, I bought this house in 2013, and the brick that you see outside is the brick that they finished in the inside. And I have a full finished basement that I can just put all my kids, my little kid toy down in there. So for me, it's nothing. This weekend, I was just tossing everything in the garbage, you know. I'm going by fate that this is happening, so.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much for being here, for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do I'm going to open it up for a public hearing. So if anyone in the audience is here to speak on this item, please come up now. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. There's no action that we're taking tonight. I think we were just going to discuss it and provide feedback. Is there any, yeah, Mr. Fox?
So, and I'm going to advise council if I do end up getting close to like saying something that I shouldn't, because I am also going to be like on the ZBA case for doing this, and I don't know like where those lines get blurry / where they cross if they do at all. The feedback / advice that I would provide the applicant, because I very much would like to see this approved by both the ZBA and the Planning Commission. The biggest thing that the ZBA looks for is practical difficulty, something that's physically distinct and unique to the land, to the property itself, that then justifies the approval of the variance. To me, that would be my advice, is to make sure you spend time to make sure you know what your practical difficulty is, like what you are saying, you know, this is the reason that I need this variance from the zoning board of appeals. Because we have had situations where the ZBA has spent a good couple minutes or hours discussing, you know, different measures of practical difficulty and how we can how those can be achieved versus what doesn't qualify. So that would be my biggest piece of feedback, is understand the statement of practical difficulty and make sure you're ready to present on, you know, this is why I need this variance to be able to proceed as desired. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so that's all we do?
That's it. And then I don't know if there's a date yet for ZBA, but hopefully.
So if it gets approved by ZBA, we will see her back with a site, a special use request.
We're going to see her back either way, because theoretically, if she's denied by ZBA, she still wants approval for 8. but
Okay,
her goal is 10.
got it. Okay, well, good luck with ZBA, and we'll look forward to seeing you back. All right, we're going to move on to our last item, well, next item on the agenda, which is a special use and preliminary site plan. It's a proposed Aston Martin dealership, north side of Maple Lawn, west of Crooks, 1744 Maple Lawn, PIN 88-20-29-401-017, Section 29, currently zoned IB, which is Integrated Industrial and Business Zoning District. And JR is going to present tonight.
All right, so this is a proposed Aston Martin dealership. It's 1.13 acres, stated it's north of Maple Lawn, west of Crooks. Presently zoned IB, and abutting properties to the north, west, east, and south are all IB. It's notable that Planned Vehicle Sales District is to the west here. Yeah, it's not picking up the mouse. Yep. The proposal includes some site improvements, including exterior building improvements, repaving the parking lot, and enhanced landscaping. You can note some additional interior parking island trees, and some additional ones on here that are not within actual islands. And just you can see the existing conditions of the lot are significantly improved. The design is a modern minimalist design, which is consistent with other Aston Martin dealerships nationally, and is along with an increase in transparency along the front facade, which is this top left. If the clicker will work, this one right here. Yep, that's a better look at it. This area is classified as Auto Mall, which is consistent with the master plan for what's being proposed. The Auto Mall is a coordinated collection of automobile sales lots that have competitive advantage in that they provide a comparison shopping experience in one area. New development should include walkable elements to allow for users to experience more than one dealership without moving their car, and coordinated site design characteristics throughout this area. To note some specific standards for this special use proposal, no vehicles shall be parked within 20 feet of any street, the right-of-way. There's no loudspeakers or broadcasting voice or music outside the building permitted within 500 feet of any residential zoned area. There's no such residential zoned area within 500 feet. It's a general standard. And all repair and maintenance activity shall conform with the standards set forth in 6.24. These are some of the general standards, including compatibility with adjacent uses, compatibility with the master plan, traffic impacts, impact with public services, compliance with the zoning ordinance standards, and impact on overall environment and special use approval requirements. Based on the proposed site improvements, they are pretty general, so it may be worth getting some specific insights from the applicant. And that's it.
Thank you, JR. All right, does anyone have any questions for the building department? Yep,
Just
Mr. Pratt.
wanted the owner or developer list the materials for the exterior other than what's in this letter talking about the curtain walls will be glass. What about that white area?
There's no additional specifics on the materials.
thank
That would
you.
be something the architect is available for questions.
Good.
Mr. Tagle?
Is the building vacant right now?
Yes, it does sit vacant. It's sat vacant for, I believe, at least a decade or so. It was a vehicle repair shop in the past, so it's a significant improvement to an underutilized property.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we ask the applicant to come up? All right, we'd love to have you up.
Hello there. I have a very
Pull the microphone up.
I have a very strong accent, and so if you don't understand, I can repeat. So even my clients sometimes don't understand me. All right. Yes, this is, will be Aston Martin location. They used to be in the other side of the street. It's a very minimalist design. We still, this is design. We don't have all the determined materials, but will be follow this appearance, and we will further submit all the improvements after with planning department, but with specification of materials and design, but aesthetically not going to change much. I think pretty much we don't have so much change of the square footage of the building, and we just want to beautify this location. Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Krant.
I love your design. I think it's very clean. It's indicative of the high-quality automobile that's being sold there. My question is that white area, what material is that?
The white could be stucco, or also I cannot go much further because we depend of as well Aston Martin determine of what material will be, but the idea is to be opaque white material. Could be stucco, could be aluminum, or could be anything that will bring this design.
And the stucco would be what, an EFIS product?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
It's what it is right now.
Mr. Tagle?
I'm sorry, are you the architect or are you representing?
I am the architect, yeah.
Okay. How much of the design is coming from Aston Martin? I mean, is it like a prototype or that they've said, hey, this is our branding?
Yeah, but pretty much that design was follow a set of designs that they already have, but the variance I believe will be minimal, and this is much of the representative, but the changes no one can have much changes in this design. But yes, this was mainly follow the designs of that we have. They are different from other brands of automotives. They had a lot of more. I don't have freedom to design. Was pretty much a lot of freedom to design. Just a follow up. To don't have a discrepancy with all the with the trends that they are design.
Are they moving from across the street, or are they going to have both properties?
Oh, that was well, I believe Gary can answer that. Yeah, they moved it from that was not the property anymore. It's another franchisee that owned this.
Okay. As far as materials, we have a real issue with EFIS as far as it being a major component on a building exterior.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
EFIS is not a product that we really strive, especially. I was a little surprised when you said that could be a possible exterior material for a product of this stature. And so I will tell you, it's going to be important for me as a commissioner to know what that product is. And if Aston Martin feels it's going to be EFIS, I am not going to be in favor of it.
Yeah, hi, hey, good evening. My name is Gary Landroche. I am with LaFontaine Automotive, 9990 East Highland Road. Most likely it's going to be ACM. We're finding most of the manufacturers today want the aluminum composite material on these buildings. It's the clean lines, it's a finished look that's supposed to be an indefinite finish. It gets dirty too, it gets road grunge and everything else, but it needs to be power washed. Certainly holds up a lot better than EFIS, right? I understand your concern with EFIS. EFIS has a lot of other concerning issues with drainage, right? There's a lot of communities that are mandating vertical drainage in there. Jonathan didn't have, in these higher end boutique stores, they don't have a fully defined design intent document like some of the manufacturers. Chevy, I can tell you what it's got to look like. Ford, I can tell you what it's got to look like. These guys it's a little more of a boutique store that has specific elements that are integrated in a little bit into whatever the existing facility is. So what he's done is he's taking a representation of other Aston Martin stores that are around the world and use those common elements to create this simplistic, really modern, kind of a clean look. What we'll do is present that to Aston Martin as our design intent. They'll use that to make sure we're creating the image that they're looking for, and this is very representative of what they want. So we have no doubts that it's going to be very, very similar to this design, probably predominantly ACM. There might be some painted block in the back or, on the sides. They'll want full glass storefront for a little single service reception lane on the side. And again, this being such a high-end auto, it's not like we get a lot of customer foot traffic. This is a store that's done, it's a lot internet-based sales. A lot of these vehicles are brought to the customer rather than customers coming here even. So it almost doesn't even need a storefront. We did purchase this dealership from the Lithia Group, and we do have to relocate it. We'd like to keep it home here in Troy. We actually are selling these vehicles right now out of Farmington Hills at a temporary location. So our objective is to try to find a permanent home for it here where it belongs. We also just picked up the Infiniti and Nissan store from Lithia right down the street there. So we have staff and a presence there to help make this a success.
Yep, go
Just
ahead.
one follow-up. You'd mentioned the other materials on the building, other than the white product, which hopefully it is a metal panel. Painted block, did you say?
There's existing masonry that's on there. The back of the building is just a block building.
How about that side looks, it's quite highly visible, as you're, certainly not the back side, but the long sides.
Yeah, that side on the parking lot would need some kind of something on there. I don't know if it's a cement board or something.
Yeah, I believe it will be cement board.
Well, I have to tell you,
It might even be a gray ACM.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Aston Martin isn't considering even presenting a higher quality image. You drive down that street and you look at all of the automobile dealerships there. They don't have stucco or EIFS on the facades.
No.
So again, as I said earlier, I don't know what action we're taking tonight, but I am not going to approve an EIFS facade on this.
Yeah, none of the manufacturers use EIFS on the front, for sure.
We shall not use it, so we could say that we're not going to use EIFS in this case.
Yeah, we can definitely say no EIFS.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? I have a question. There's a bird's eye view of the building, and on the south side of the building, which is the front of your store, there's sort of like a white.
Display patio sort of there.
Is that for cars to be parked? Like meaning like a showcase, like an outdoor?
It is, however, we really don't leave those vehicles sitting outside there too much. At $400-something thousand a piece, they tend to be pretty particular about them. What that would be good for is this store doesn't have a delivery bay per se, so certainly during favorable weather, if somebody were to come to be picking up a car or specifically scheduling a test drive or something, we may have it ready to go and sitting out there.
Okay.
Very important client, Anna.
Okay. That was all the questions I had. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
At this time, we'll do a public hearing.
Okay.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing for this item. If anyone's here who would like to speak, please come up.
I just want to say, I just want to hug that last lady.
Yeah. All right, since no one is approaching the lectern, we're going to go ahead and close that public hearing. Okay. Yep, discussion. Mr. Fox.
I can second, and I understand Mr. Tagel's eagerness not to get sucked into another EFS conversation. So a question I do have for city staff is with special use approvals, are we able to offer conditions?
Absolutely. And I heard the applicant plainly state that they'd be willing to exclude EFS as a building product.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll leave it for the rest of the planning commissioners, but at any point when someone decides to make a motion, we can absolutely include that.
Go ahead, Mr. Krent.
Refresh my memory if you can. I don't think we've ever approved a site plan when the materials are unknown. Is that ever, it's kind of a sticking point to me to find out, you know, Aston Martin says, well, we'll do it, you know, like we do all around the world, but that doesn't help me.
Well, I suspected that we would get into a conversation regarding building materials this evening, so I wasn't real heavy-handed because of the fact that he proposed color renderings which showed definitely the direction that they wanted to go and how they wanted the building to look, and I figured I actually kind of predicted who the people would be that would commenting with 100% accuracy. So I think we got there in the end.
I actually went ahead and watched the meeting from 2 weeks ago, which I missed, so I got to hear the whole EFS conversation this morning. So my position is I happen to really love the design. I like the way it looks. I'm not really sure that I care if it's EFS because I like that look, and I think it would. I think it looks super high end, and I don't know. I think it looks very classy.
I guess as a non-architect, I really appreciated the gentleman's comments about how, you know, EFS and the aluminum get built on identical buildings next to each other. They look the same on day one or close, but on day 1 plus 2 years, the EFS doesn't clean as well and doesn't maintain as well, and it's just not as good of a product. So I think there's definitely value. That's one of the reasons why it's a complementary building material only. So
Okay. To Mr. Krent's point, I think there are a lot of other issues out there. I mean, I don't want to call them issues, but other things that we usually discuss about when we're talking about approving site plans. As far as special use go, I think it meets the standard and I have no issue there, but you know, we haven't talked about location of the dumpster, parking, trees in the parking lot, lighting. All of those things haven't really been articulated for us to know whether they've met the site plan or site design standards. I believe they're different for this zoning of IB, but maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've got 3 applications this evening that went before us, 3 public hearings. We sent mailings, we posted notice in the newspaper. Not one person showed up. In part because there's no, well, I guess the middle application was in the middle of a single-family residential neighborhood. But this one certainly, there's no residential neighbors within 500 feet. This is a parcel, the building's been there a very long time, decades and decades. It's been vacant for about a decade. And this is one of those applications where as zoning administrator, I look at the balance between wanting to fill a vacant building, wanting to encourage investment and not being too heavy-handed, but also wanting what's in the best interest of the city. And it seemed to me when Jonathan submitted this that he did look at increasing the landscaping and he did look at repaving the kind of the tired pothole parking lot and improving the aesthetics of the building. So as zoning administrator, I felt that it was a significant step forward. Were we heavy-handed? Not heavy-handed, but did we require 8 spaces, one parking lot island tree per 8 spaces, which like we could? No, we got some additional parking lot island trees. If it was a new build on a vacant parcel, it's a totally different discussion. So this is that balance between wanting to encourage filling a vacant building and getting a better site. So that was kind of, that's why we, this isn't your 8-page site plan application. It's more consideration of the use itself, the sales, and some improvements to the site. And that's kind of the decision I made as zoning administrator, knowing that the board's going to keep us honest here. And if a majority of the board felt that they should comply with one tree per 8 spaces, if a majority felt that, then you could ask for that. I knew we'd talk about EFS. That's kind of why we didn't get a complete site plan. It's that balance. If that's not a direction the Planning Commission wants to take moving forward, we can ask for more.
Thank you for that explanation. I mean, personally, I understand that as a city, we want to encourage the repurposing of buildings and especially something that's been vacant for 10 years and they're coming in and reusing it and definitely going to make it look better than it currently exists. I mean, I just came up with those things off the top of my head. I just want to make sure that we don't have, I don't know, what if they come and put a super tall light that spills light pollution on the neighboring property? Is it safe to assume that those types of things will be caught at the building permit level?
Yeah, so this would still go through an administrative final site plan review in which they would review those kinds of items, including a lighting plan, how many actual tree islands are proposed, where the location of the dumpster would be, that emergency vehicles can have sufficient turn radius to enter and exit depending on where they propose for that dumpster to be. We did speak to them about the 1 tree island per 8 spaces, I recall, but they added some trees on the exterior to kind of compromise. And the motivation for these improvements would be the approval of the special use. So that's where the balance comes through.
Okay, and to me, it looks like they're overparked based on how they're going to use the building. So that there is one line of a lot of parking on the east side that.
The calculation is 2 spaces overparked. So it's.
Oh, just 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Fox.
Possible, I'd like to offer a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Any other? Okay. Resolved that special use approval and preliminary site plan approval for the proposed Aston Martin dealership north side of Maple Lawn, west of Crooks, 1744 Maple Lawn, PIN 88-20-29-401-017, Section 29, currently zoned IB, Integrated Industrial and Business District, be granted for the following reasons. The proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses. The proposed use is compatible with the master plan. The proposed use does not negatively impact traffic or public services. The proposed use complies with zoning ordinance standards, subject to a restriction, no EFS on the property.
Is there anyone? Mr. Lambert's going to second that. Any discussion? Yep.
Just mention here that on page 65 of our packet, there's a line or a sentence that says the proposed site improvements include bicycle parking, improved parking surface, landscape improvements, and building improvements that comply with the special use requirements. So I'm assuming city staff had already looked at something and given us their assurance that they believe that it meets the special use requirements.
That's correct.
Anyone else? All right, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parekis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in tonight. All right.
Then remind me how many languages you speak? I know it's hard to keep track.
I just speak one.
I speak 7 languages.
7.
Wow.
Thank you very much. As you see, I don't speak any one of the languages very well.
All right, now is time for public comment for items on the agenda. So if anyone's here tonight to speak on those items, I don't see anyone, so we're going to move on to Planning Commission comment. And we'll start with Mr. Fox.
I'm all set.
Mr. Hudson?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Faison?
Nothing from me.
Mr. Lambert?
2 items. One is to thank city staff. I noticed that each of our agenda items tonight somebody from city staff, I don't know if it's a new communications person, made sure there was a sign in front of each of them so that the public would know that there was something going on with that property. Secondly, a question about office zoning. We've talked here at very many meetings about making housing more affordable in Troy. Is there a reason why we don't allow some type of multi-use that would accommodate residential on an office site? Or is that something we need to look at in the future?
It's something we need to look at in the future. That was the O office district served Troy very, very well for decades. But coming out of COVID and just the way that people work remotely and et cetera, we're all aware of the challenges. It's something we need to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Krent?
Nope.
Mr. Tagle?
Fine, thanks.
Ms. Dufresne?
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr.
A
Sefner?
quick shout out to Sean, who's our cable and technical person. I inadvertently laid my zoning ordinance down and I pushed the button. And my response was for all the blood to rush from my head into panic. And he came running out here and hit the button, and I would have never figured that out. So thank you, Sean, for always back. I always do something dumb every meeting, and he always corrects me and with a smile. So thank you.
That's funny. I saw him come running in and I was like, started wondering what was going on. Yeah, JR?
No comment.
No comment. All right. No comment from me either. Thanks for coming out in this crazy weather though, and hopefully everyone has power going home. Adjourned.